Hey everyone, it's Brennan. Welcome to my channel and welcome to another video. Today we are talking about some lighter and some darker romances. So romance was my most read genre in 2020, which is so interesting to me because I've always seen myself as more of a fantasy reader. And now I'm thinking that when I do read fantasy, I enjoy the relationships and the romance. I won't say the most, but it is way up there in what I enjoy in my books. And last year, I just really dove hard into the adult romance universe, and I read some very different romances. So I thought it would be interesting and enjoyable to talk about some lighter romance recommendations, so more like contemporary, basic, enjoyable romance, and then some darker romances with a more, I don't know, dark plot. I should have looked up some synonyms before I started filming this video, but with some more issues, maybe a little messier and maybe a little bullier, if you know me. So I have 5 light romances and 5 dark romances to talk about today. And we will start with our lighter romances. The first book I want to recommend is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I just finished this a few days ago, and I'll link my vlog where I read it. When I finished this, I was just like, yes, this would be a really good place for someone to start if they are just getting into the adult romance genre. But this follows our main character, Chloe, and she is a kind of like a computer geek. She's from a very well-off family, and she has dealt her whole adult life, I think she got diagnosed at 21 with fibromyalgia. So she deals with chronic pain, and we get to look at what kind of her life looks like revolving around that and how she manages it. And now in her early 30s, she's ready to do more than just manage her day-to-day life. She wants to get a life, and she makes a little list of different things she wants to do. And first on her list, though, is to move out of her parents' house. So she gets an apartment, and her love story is with her apartment building's superintendent, Red. And he is a grungy, kind of motorcycle-y guy, but with a very soft heart. And he's an artist. And Red has his own kind of issues. So both these people kind of bring baggage into this relationship, but Red has dealt with verbal abuse from his previous girlfriend. So he is going through kind of the repercussions of that. This is just 2 people doing their own lives, but also enjoying each other's company. And it was really cute. And I would definitely recommend it for a light, heartwarming romance. Okay, this next book I have to recommend, Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. This was the first adult romance I read in 2020. And it just started me down this beautiful rabbit hole of romance novels. So this book follows our characters, Josh and Hazel. Hazel is a quirky elementary school teacher, and she has a bunch of pets that she lives with, and not just dogs and cats, but I think she has a parrot and maybe a guinea pig or something. It has been almost a year since I've read this book. And Hazel's love interest, Josh, they actually kind of went to college together, and then Hazel makes a new friend at her job, and then it's actually Josh's sister. So they kind of are thrown into each other's lives again, and they develop a friendship first. And Josh is dating someone at the beginning of this novel. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work out. And Hazel is just perpetually kind of single, just has more, I don't want to say, hasn't found a meaningful relationship yet. So Josh and Hazel, in their friendship, decide to set each other up on dates. And this story is them kind of constantly double dating, but also actually dating each other. This was really good. Like I said, it started me on my romance journey, so highly recommend. Also, the colors of this cover just are beautiful. The next book I have to recommend is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. This is a romance, and our female character is an economist, and she's very invested in her job because she just enjoys it so much. And she's also on the autism spectrum, so that gets a lot of representation and discussion in this book. So because Stella, our main character, she has difficulty kind of making relationships and friendships, and her mom is really pressuring her to get married. She wants grandchildren. So Stella enlists the help of a male escort, Michael. And Michael has I think he has a Vietnamese background, so that was really interesting to dive into Michael's family and their dynamics also. And this is their relationship. It's just a wholesome yet smutty good time. Really good. Also, I love this cover. Like, I just love the math in the background. I just think that's so funny. Stella and her job as an economist, very interesting to me. And the next book I want to recommend is Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey. This was one of my favorite books that I read last year. This follows our main characters, Georgie and Travis. Georgie is a professional party clown. Does that sound ridiculous? Maybe a little bit, but she's hilarious. That's something that I really liked in this book. Georgie is so funny. Her just like demeanor and her jokes are just to die for in this book. Tessa Bailey can write some funny books. I am learning as I read more of her novels. And Travis he was a Major League Baseball player. He's also Georgie's brother's best friend. So he was a Major League Baseball player, but he had to retire early because of an injury. So he's feeling down and out. He's moved back home to his hometown. And Georgie just doesn't want to see this guy who she kind of idolized growing up be down on himself, and she makes it her mission to get him kind of back on his feet, show him that he can like baseball and he doesn't have to be the professional baseball player that he was. And this is their relationship. It's called Fix Her Up because Georgie's family owns like a renovation carpentry company, and Travis ends up doing some work for them, and this is their romance. It's so good. Their issues come from like Travis still being like kind of a celebrity figure, and they kind of do some fake dating in this also, which obviously turns into real dating, and it was so good. This was so super steamy. Probably out of the books I've recommended, this one's the steamiest. And the last book / series I want to recommend is Tessa Dare's Girl Meets Duke series. These are historical romances, and these are amazing. These are historical romances, but they are for the modern reader. Like, our female characters have their own very specific hobbies. In our first book, The Duchess Deal, our main character, she's a really excellent seamstress and likes to make and design her own clothes. In our second book, The Governess Game, our main character is really into, not astrology, astronomy. There we go. And she like maps constellations, and like the plot of that book is like her timing a comet that's coming. And in our third book, The Wallflower Wager, our main character saves animals, a lot of different animals, as in otters, as in goats, as in steers, as in dogs with only 2 legs. Really great. So I loved each and every book in this series. I would recommend it to anyone, especially if you've never read historical romance before. This is the perfect starting point. Those were my 5 lighter romances, and now let's get into some darker, moody, broody romances. I can't make a romance video and not talk about Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas. This is the first Penelope Douglas book I ever read. I read it when it was free with Prime Reading, and now I own a physical copy of this indie romance, and let me tell you, this is probably my favorite romance book that I've ever read. I don't even know if I can really tell you why. This follows seniors in high school, which I thought I was not gonna vibe with because I'm pretty well removed from high school at this point in my life. But you know how CW shows, like, they're high schoolers, but really they're like in their mid to late 20s and they do mid to late 20 things? That's this book too. So we follow our main characters, Misha and Ryan. They have been pen pals since the 5th grade, and now they're seniors in high school. They've never met each other in person, even though they live relatively close to each other. They just kind of decided that they were going to keep their pen pal relationship. It meant too much to them and they weren't going to push it any further. Well, Misha, who's the guy, ends up meeting Ryan at a party. He recognizes her because someone like says her name, but she does not know that it is him. And she's very different from the girl that he has been corresponding with. She is like, comes across as kind of shallow and mean and like a stereotypical cheerleader type attitude. Then Misha has some stuff go on in his life. Then he like impersonates a new student at Ryan's high school for personal reasons, but also because he just cannot keep himself away from her now that he knows how she is in real life. And he kind of, okay, this is where the bully part comes in this bully romance. But he is just kind of like pushing her, trying to, he just doesn't like who she comes across as because he knows who she like really is inside. This is just really good. Like the tension that builds between them, and then when it culminates into what it becomes, it's just delicious. It's so good. I read this in like 2 days, and then I immediately told my friends that they had to read it too. Anyway, this started me on my Penelope Douglas journey, my indie romance journey in general. And so if we're recommending dark romances, I have to recommend Penelope Douglas's Devil's Night series. The first book is Corrupt. The second book is Hideaway. The third book is Kill Switch. The fourth book is Nightfall. And there's a novella, Conclave. I'm gonna keep Kill Switch up on the screen because it's my favorite. I guess I wouldn't say that I was in love with any of the other books in the series, but it's worth it to read Damon's book, Kill Switch. This is how do I even explain this series? So all of these books have dual timelines between present day, where our characters are in their early, mid-20s, and a past timeline when they were in high school. And the events in this book all culminated around Devil's Night, which is the night before Halloween. And our 4 guy characters in this series, they were the 4 horsemen in high school. And they're just super popular. This is like a rich kid story. Like, they're all very wealthy. And then on this Devil's Night that happened the year after they graduated from high school, a few of them got arrested, and then we dive into the present day stories when they are getting out of prison. I guess they went to prison. I think the best way to say this is that they just have like rich people drama with their parents. Like, there's some murder that happens in this series. Am I even doing a good job explaining this? I'm gonna leave it at that. They have rich people problems, and they are just trying to kind of forge their own paths in life and be successful and deal with what happened to them before. Yeah. Wow. That was like the worst description. I'll just say I have a whole video talking about this series that I will link below. I should have started out by saying that. There you go. Okay, the next darker romance I want to recommend is Heartbones by Colleen Hoover. And this was also one of my favorite books I read last year. We follow our main characters, Bea and Samson. And Bea is from Kentucky, and I appreciate that as someone from Kentucky. And she's not just from Kentucky, she's from rural, impoverished Kentucky. And you start the story, her mom has just died from a drug overdose, and she goes to live with her dad for a while. She has just graduated high school, and she is just biding her time over this summer until she can go to college on the scholarship that she's earned for herself. And Bea never tells her dad's family that her mom has died. She's just like, hey, can I come live with you? And then this book is her story with Samson, who is like the rich next door neighbor to her dad's beach house in Texas. And what makes this dark? Well, one, Bea is a dark character, and Bea and Samson kind of bond because of their loneliness that they've always felt growing up, which is a darker theme. Yeah, there are some like twists in this book as per Colleen Hoover's usual, and this was another book I read over a very short time. Colleen Hoover's books, when I pick up a Colleen Hoover book, I can't put it down. Like, they are just so messy, they are so dramatic, and I eat it up. I eat it up. I am her audience. It's me. And I really thought I was going to hate the ending of this book, but I loved it. As it was happening, I was like, no, I hate it. And then when it resolved, I was like, no, that was amazing. So yeah, like some pain in the book, and that's what makes it dark for me. Another beautifully talented indie author is Kate Stewart. I really wanted to mention some of her books. I really like her Underdog series, but I do feel like those are a little lighter. But I'm going to mention Flock. Sadly, I have not read Exodus or her new book in this. It was a duet with Flock and Exodus, and now she just released a 3rd book. This is her Ravenhood series. And while I gave this book 3 stars, I still like think about it and it stuck with me. This kind of has a this has a polyamorous relationship in it. And we follow our main character, Cecilia, as she also is just kind of spending some time after she graduates high school working in her dad's kind of technology factory. She's supposed to like inherit and run this company, and she is just starting out, you know, working the line. I think she makes calculators. That does not mean anything. That's a side point. And she starts a relationship with another worker at this factory. I think his name's Sean. And he is part of this, like, it's kind of like a gang. It's kind of like a muscle car gang, but they do like socially good things, but maybe legally not so good things. They're kind of like a gang of everyday average Joe philosophers. That's like so weird. Is that how I see this book? I guess it is. And she starts a relationship with Sean and another member of their gang. I'm just gonna call it a gang. It's the Ravenhood. They're the Ravenhood boys. Okay, so like, just don't get attached to anyone in this book. Just go along for the ride and have a good time. And I'm really excited to read the other books in this series too. I really like Kate Stewart's books. I am ending this video by talking about Zodiac Academy by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. This is a fantasy romance. This is a fantasy, bully, paranormal kind of romance. I just say paranormal because it has vampires and werewolves in it, and I feel like that makes a book paranormal. Anyway, this is a fantasy series. Right now there are 6 books out and there's a 7th book coming out this year. We start out following our main characters, Tori and Darcy. They are twins. They have been living foster home to foster home in our mortal world. And then they find out that they are actually the princesses to this Fae society. And in this world, your zodiac sign determines like elemental abilities that you have. So like water, fire, earth, and air as your sign. Then you have that elemental ability. And some people have more than one ability. You also have different orders that so like you have your Fae form and then you have your order form. And that can be anything from a dragon to a Pegasus, a Medusa, a vampire, a werewolf, like I said. And this story is Tori and Darcy finding their place in this very cutthroat Fae society, as you know Fae societies are, and them initially not wanting to take their like place as the rulers of this society, because now we have the heirs, H-E-I-R-S, heirs. Sometimes I don't feel like the words I say come across as they're supposed to. Anyway, there are 4 heirs. Their families are now kind of in control of this society since they lost their princesses and the royalty were murdered. So the heirs are making it their mission to be as cruel and ruthless as they can be to our new princesses, Tori and Darcy. This book starts with them just like butting heads so hard, and then as the series goes on, you know, they may butt heads, but that creates a lot of tension, especially of the sexual kind. This series is just... I have a really hard time talking about this series because I love it so much. I have not felt this consumed and just invested in a series and the characters in a long time. A long time. And these 2 are books that I just cannot put down. These are longer books, like in the fantasy page length range, like 700 pages. Maybe the first ones aren't so long, but I just live for these books. That's dramatic, but it's true. I live for these books. If you read any book that I've recommended today, read the Zodiac Academy series. Unless you don't like bully romances, then stay very far away from it because you will judge me as a human being. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching this video. Let me know your romance recommendations because I am a romance junkie now. At this point in my life, I am just living for the romance. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next one.